Hello. The east coast of South Africa has seen some very heavy rainfall over recent days. Some places close to Durban have had more than 300 millimetres of rain in just a few days. That has led to some flooding problems. If we take a look at the satellite image, the area of cloud you can see now is just moving offshore, so the weather will be improving, perhaps just a few showers left behind that. Cape Town turns a little bit cooler though. We've got a cold front moving in and that will push into eastern parts of South Africa through into the weekend. Further north, also a few showers around coastal parts of Algeria, Tunisia too, and some fairly strong gusty winds to the east of that affecting Libya. Could bring some lifted blowing dust at times. So after a cooler few days in Cape Town then, those temperatures recover once again through the weekend and into next week. But Johannesburg could see the arrival of that next batch of rain by about Sunday. Khartoum is looking hot and dry. Few showers around for Kinshasa and for Lusaka at times. Now on to the Middle East. We've had some slightly cooler air working in across the Levant, but temperatures starting to rebound once again, so largely warm and dry for the likes of Damascus. A few showers cropping up through central parts of the Gulf and into central Saudi Arabia as well, but to the south that remains dry and hot weather persists down towards the Gulf of Muscat, for instance. Further north there could be some heavy snow showers affecting the Caucasus Mountains, but things are looking hot and dry for Tel Aviv, turning a touch cooler though through the week in Abu Dhabi. Bye-bye.
Wherever you go in the world, one airline goes further to make it feel exceptional. Qatar Airways, going places together.
As Russian troops retreat from parts of Ukraine, the shocking impact of the invasion is being revealed.
These people have been escaping from cities that have been under Russian bombardment.
The damage here gives a sense of how fierce the fighting has been.
We are still discovering dead bodies here in Bucha.
See the headlines as they happen with breaking news alerts in the app and get the full story with bbc.com/news. Follow the latest on the Russian invasion of Ukraine with BBC News.
Now on BBC World News, the latest business news from across the globe. World Business Report.
Shanghai's lockdown takes a bite out of Apple. A key producer for the iPhone maker suspends production across the region. And paying over the odds, UK prices rise at their fastest rate in 30 years as soaring energy bills take their toll. Hello to you, a warm welcome. This is World Business Report. I'm Ben Thompson and we will start this hour in China, where Apple has become the latest firm to feel the impact of Shanghai's extended wide-scale lockdown. It is a lockdown that's kept 25 million people at home. Pegatron, a major producer of Apple's iPhones, says it will suspend production at 2 of its factories in Shanghai as COVID cases continue to rise. Well, it's not just them that's been hit. Other firms that are suppliers to Apple, including Quanta and the iPad maker Compal Electronics, have also paused their operations. So let's speak to Isabel Hilton, who is the founder of China Dialogue and joins me now. Thanks for being with us, and talk to me about the impact of this, because quite clearly, and we've seen this around the world when lockdowns have hit, if people are being told to stay at home, they can't get to work. But this is a perfect example of the global repercussions of something like that. And I'm worried, Isabel, perhaps you're on mute at your end. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. I don't know how that happened.
That's absolutely fine. Talk to me about those global repercussions, and one of which we're seeing there too.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry. It's a big hit, if you like, for Apple in terms of continuous supply. This is about 20-30% of its assembly, and we should maybe distinguish between supply chains and assembly, because an iPhone or any Apple product is full of hundreds of parts which come from all over the world, not necessarily from China, but the assembly of iPhones is almost exclusively in China, between Pegatron and Foxconn, which is actually larger. So there is the immediate problem in Shanghai, but there's also the nightmare scenario that, for example, Foxconn's factory in Henan, which assembles 50% of iPhones, could also be hit should there be an outbreak there, as there was in Shenzhen, where Foxconn also has a factory and had to suspend production about 3 weeks ago. So, you know, we're in a very, very delicate situation because so much of the assembly has been concentrated in China for many years.
And it's the dilemma that has faced many a government, isn't it? Of, you know, what are we prepared to accept? A lower level of infection but severe lockdowns with huge economic and social implications, or a zero COVID policy as China says it wants to do. But as we're seeing now, huge repercussions.
Well, the problem with zero COVID was there was never an easy exit from zero COVID, because it depended on pretty much sealed borders and, as you say, these very draconian lockdowns. And people put up with it for, 2 years, but they're getting very tired of it now. And this outbreak has rather blown a hole in the argument that this is a superior system. And that was a very important political argument for the party. It's a big political year. They don't want things going wrong. And this is really causing them a headache.
Isabel, for now, thank you so much. It's good to have your thoughts. Isabel Hilton there, the founder of China Dialogue. Really appreciate your time this afternoon. Well, here in the UK, we're looking at the cost of living back in the spotlight once again. New inflation figures out today show the annual rate of consumer price inflation jumping to 7% in March, the highest level in 30 years and higher than many had predicted. But the UK isn't alone. Rising inflation is a global problem, with surging energy prices, supply chain problems all pushing up prices for goods and services. Well, let's speak to Liz Martins, who is UK economist at HSBC. Liz, nice to have you with us too. And look, not wholly unexpected, and we're told this inflation figure will get worse before it gets better. But nonetheless, we're all going to start to feel this in our pockets pretty soon.
Well, I think many people already are feeling it in their pockets. This was the March number, of course, 7% year on year, much higher than anything we've experienced here in the UK in, as you say, several decades. And as you say as well, it is going to get worse. Unfortunately, April, of course, was the month where council tax maybe went up for a lot of people. But more importantly, that rise, that 54% rise in regulated energy bills comes through. So we think that CPI inflation will go above 8% in this month, April, and unfortunately stay there for most of this year.
And the fundamental problem with that is not only is stuff costing us more, wages aren't keeping up. And so we're seeing real terms pay cuts, which again, it's very easy to see how we get into a downward spiral. Governments, and we know this is not just a UK problem, around the world are having to try and deal with that, but they're limited in what tools they have at their disposal.
Well, they are. I mean, some governments have done more than others. I mean, one of the problems for the UK government is the higher inflation is, the more we're spending on interest payments on our national debt. So, you know, the big statistic that the Office of Budget Responsibility was saying at the time of the spring statement was that actually the UK is going to spend £83 billion on servicing our debt this year. That makes it the fourth biggest thing we're spending on after health, education and the pension. So I think that's what Rishi Sunak has in mind when he, limits the additional support for households. Having said that, this is a major squeeze on households, and I think it is still possible that more may come in the pipeline as this thing really starts to take hold and be shown in people's standard of living.
So Liz, what's the answer though? Do we all just have to, sit this out and wait for things to get better? Because, as we said, they don't have many tools, and we know that whatever they do right now takes 6, 8, 12 months to actually filter through anyway.
That's right. I mean, there's a few things that would help. Obviously, additional support from the government would help. A big fall in commodity prices would be very nice. But of course, the Bank of England's trying to bring inflation down as well. They've raised rates 3 times already. We expect them to do that again 3 more times. And that's trying to bring inflation down over the medium term. But you're right, it will take some time. And there's nothing the Bank of England can do about what's happened to energy prices in the last few months.
Yes, I'm sure we'll talk about this again very soon. Liz, thank you for now, though. Liz Martin's a UK economist at HSBC. Well, that rising cost of living, as we've talked about, not only hurting households and families, but small businesses as well. Many of them just starting to get their confidence back after successive lockdowns and closures. They're all now worried about how they can adapt amid soaring prices and a squeeze on consumer spending. Well, our reporter Dougal Shaw has visited some London entrepreneurs to find out how they are coping.
The Huckletree West business hub in White City, West London was very quiet during lockdowns, but it started to bustle again with start-up activity. However, in the current economic climate, rising costs are a big challenge to many. This start-up team makes bags designed for parents.
The cost of our entire supply chain has gone up, as it has with every other business, and we can't pass that on to the customers because we know that people are struggling, so we're just having to take the hit on margin as a business. It's quite tough.
Their neighbours are a digital growth marketing agency for Shopify brands.
Cost of living increases affect my business because they affect the morale of my team. Like a lot of businesses in London, we employ young people who've recently moved to London. I can see it's something they're worrying about. They're all talking to each other about it. They're wondering about when their landlords are going to pass on living costs onto them, and I worry for them.
As small businesses held back by the pandemic look to take off again, they're hoping rising costs across the board won't hold them back. Dougal Shaw, BBC News.
Let's bring you up to date with some of the other business stories today, and it's not just Europe and the US that's dealing with a sharp rise in the cost of living. New data out in India shows that retail inflation rose nearly 7% in March. The 17-month high was driven by the rising cost of food, fuel and electricity. Airbus is urging Europe not to block imports of titanium from Russia. The company says sanctions on the metal would hurt aerospace manufacturers and wouldn't make a huge dent on Russia's economy. Well, Russia provides about half of Airbus's titanium either directly or through key suppliers. And the former head of a Swiss bank has been sentenced to nearly 4 years in jail for charges including fraud. The court in Zurich heard how Pierre Vincetz used his company credit card to pay for strip clubs, Tinder dates, holidays and dinners. Vincetz, who was the chief executive of Raiffeisen Bank, plans to appeal. More now on all those stories at bbc.com/business. You can reach me on Twitter at BBC Ben Thompson. See you soon.